Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share some statistics and lessons learned from our recent coast-to-coast road trip. Welcome back and thanks for being here. Coast-to-coast road trip. Whew, that was the longest trip I had done in a long time. I had my wife joining me. She's not with me here. As I mentioned in the previous video, check out here if you're interested. She was a captive audience, so she wasn't in my videos because she just was really anxious to be there. I thrust it upon her, so I'm back to doing the videos by myself. I hope she comes back sometime. I enjoyed having her in the videos with me. Let me just jump straight into the stats from the trip. The entire trip, wow, which did not include the trip that Diana and I made out to Chincoteague for our Atlantic Ocean photo. Check that up here. I will post the mileage for that because I don't remember how far it was. The trip from the time that we left our house and drove out to California and returned to our house, we drove 7,422 miles. And the big question that I kept getting throughout my video series was, what kind of fuel economy you're getting? I mean, it's got to be terrible towing that trailer. And it was. Usually when I'm pulling the trailer, I'm driving much slower, say 55, 60 miles an hour, maybe 65. But on this trip, it's amazing the difference, what a difference, say going 70 or 75 can make. The speed limit in most states for trailers is 65. There are some states, I'll flash a map up here, where they restrict you to 55. To my knowledge, California is the only one that will really enforce that. I mean, I suppose some will throw the book at you if they really want to, but California, I think they would have pulled me over if I was doing more than 55 with my trailer. And then Texas has a 70 mile an hour trailer speed limit. And so if the speed limit was 75, I did 75 and I felt okay doing that. But at those high speeds, I was getting just 19 miles of the gallon, which is just amazing out of a car that I can usually get 35 plus out of on the highway. So I went through, in those 7,400 miles, I went through 322 gallons of fuel for an end economy overall average, measured, not displayed on my display. It wasn't a computer estimate. Actual fuel economy, 23 miles to the gallon, which that means in some cases, sometimes I got as good as 26. That would be where I was driving more slowly, say actually in California. But yeah, a lot of the time I was getting between 19 and 21, and that really sucks an average down. I had estimated that I was going to get 28 miles to the gallon, and obviously I didn't do that. And so that estimate that was part of my budgeting when I was trying to figure out how much all of this was going to cost me. And I wound up spending about $900 in fuel. I had estimated that I was going to spend $800, so that was an extra $100 in fuel that I didn't expect to spend. And my hotels, I think we stayed 1 or 2 extra nights. And so I had budgeted about $1,300 for hotels. And instead we spent $1,700. And that was not a terrible surprise, but sometimes there's some creep in a budget. And budget creep can happen. It's just, I'm glad I could absorb it. And then food. I had budgeted around $800 for food. And to be honest, I don't know how much we spent on it. I can just say $1,000 just for giggles, but I have no idea. I wasn't trying to track every penny. So, yeah, I budgeted around $3,000 for the trip. That was what I was expecting for fuel, hotels, and food, and then gifts and things like that. I think we spent around $3,500, maybe $4,000. So, somebody had shared with me that a lot of Europeans, when they're looking at coming to the States and they want to travel the States and tour the States and they're trying to estimate how much it's going to cost, they just don't realize how vast the country is. We drove 7,400 miles and didn't really do a whole lot of sightseeing. We were on a mission to get out and retrieve my mother's stuff and get back, and then we made some detours along the way. And so we didn't really do the touristy thing that I think most Europeans or foreign visitors would do when they come to America. So yeah, that'll give you an idea of what our 16 days and 7,400 miles of driving cost. And so yeah, plan accordingly when you're doing stuff like this. Something else I wanted to share was lessons learned, and believe me, there were some lessons to be learned. For example, I don't regret bringing the trailer whatsoever. The trailer was necessary. But if I had it to do all over again, I don't think I would have brought the baby trailer. I would have used my cargo trailer. The reason being that by the time they're both loaded, they really weigh about the same. And so the cargo trailer is a heavier trailer most of the time, but for this trip, I think it would have been negligible. But what its value really would have been, the cargo trailer, the utility trailer, the baby trailer, because I had all the cargo stacked in layers on it, I think it was probably an aerodynamic disaster. And better yet, because of everything being layered and outside and just the way it was loaded, every time we stopped for the night, we had to unload the trailer. Our cargo trailer, we could have kept everything locked inside. It's a more secure padlock, and I don't know, I suppose it still could have been broken into, but it just would have been a different vibe, I think. And so not as much of a challenge, I don't think. So if I had to do it over again, if I knew that I was going to be hauling as much stuff as we did, I would have gotten my cargo trailer finished. Gosh, that would have saved so much time loading and unloading every day, because we probably still would have brought in the refrigerator. Well, no, we wouldn't have, because I'm trying to remember if we brought in the refrigerator at night on the return trip. We did. But I would have found a way. The cargo trailer has a battery built into it, and we probably would have left the refrigerator outside every night. We would have loaded the trailer in such a fashion that our luggage was in the back and the refrigerator was in the back, so it was accessible, and this other stuff would have been in the front of the trailer and stayed in the trailer full time, and we could have just left it outside. It would have been much easier. And on the return trip, with all that stuff on top of the lid on the baby trailer, the refrigerator was inaccessible during the day. With the cargo trailer, I would have loaded the refrigerator right there in the back by the door, and we would have still been able to get to the refrigerator and use it during the day on our drive. So yes, definitely would have done the cargo trailer had I been thinking ahead. And next time, if there is a next time, that's exactly what's going to happen. And there might be a next time. I'll have to share that with you another time. The rooftop cargo box, it was useful and not useful at the same time. The cargo box, because of what I had in it, we never opened and closed it. So that was convenient. It was kind of noisy, not terribly noisy, but just noisier than driving without it. And having the rack on the car for so long, that I had never, well, not with when I say I had never, I really mean not with this car, had any problems with the foot pads on the cargo rack marring the paint, but it did. The paint is marred now, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to just get it off with some polish. So it's not like I've ruined the paint or anything, but this type of marring is exactly why I make it my best habit to put the rack up there only for as long as I need it and then immediately take it down. But this time, because of all the traveling that we've been doing, the rack and the box was on the car for a month, maybe a little more. And I'm not going to call it a regret, because I used this car for its utility, and I'm not going to regret using my car, but I would have done that a little bit differently. Given our load, I might have still brought the cargo box and therefore the crossbars, But if we had taken the cargo trailer instead, I don't think we would have needed it, because the cargo trailer is it's a little larger. The baby trailer is a 3.5 by 5. The cargo trailer is a 4 by 6 plus a little bit of extra in the nose. And so I think I could have stacked the spare tires up in the front and then still had enough floor space and stackable space to carry everything that was on the car. I would have been, or on the car or on the trailer, it would have all fit in the cargo trailer. So I don't know, that's a long answer to why I would have preferred to take the cargo trailer, and that is what I will keep in mind if I have to do this again. Tools. You know, the tools, the only tool that I didn't have that I wish I would have had was maybe a spark plug tool. You can either bring a bunch of tools and have just too much weight in tools. It's almost always guaranteed that you're gonna not have the one tool that you need. But if I travel again, I will have a spark plug tool with me, and maybe a better assortment of screwdrivers and Torx drivers. But I would try to not go crazy with the tools because it's weight. And then my final lesson learned that I can think of anyway is gearing down. I mentioned in another video that I have a bad habit of running the car at too low of an RPM when I'm cruising. I don't follow the I'm pointing, you can't see because I'm pointing like this, but down here, I don't follow what the cluster recommends, because it wants me in 6th gear as soon as I can get there, right? And so I don't do that, but I do sometimes accelerate, maybe say at 2,500 RPM, when maybe it would be better if I downshifted. And that was from 20 years of driving TDIs, Volkswagen's turbo diesel. They've got fantastic low end torque, and you just don't need the downshift with those. Pulling the trailer, I absolutely should have been downshifting more than I was. Absolutely should have been driving geared down from what I would normally drive. This car with the trailer really needed to be cruising at between 2,500 and 3,000 RPM. Cruising between 2,000 and 2,500, no good unless I'm in flat territory. In the mountains, absolutely downshift. 4th gear at 55, 5th gear at 70, and yeah, so that's a lesson learned. And I didn't learn that lesson because driving incorrectly damaged my car, my engine, because I've kind of concluded that my casualty, although I speculated that towing the trailer over the mountains and driving a low RPMs caused my issue on the road, because I was trying to wrap my brain around what happened. But once we discovered what the problem really was, no, I don't believe that towing caused the problem. So now you guys are really dying to know what the problem with the car was, aren't you? Stand by, that is the next video. I appreciate you being here. Let me know if there's a lesson learned that maybe you think I could have or should have learned on this trip. Maybe I didn't think of it. Overall, I think the trip went very well. And so the lessons that I've learned, none of it has been detrimental to the trip or detrimental to us. It's just something that I think I would do differently on a follow-up trip. Again, ask questions. I'm happy to answer. As always, I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time with a report about what went wrong with my car. Take care.